radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right, welcome, Fade to Black. How you doing? Today's Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Let's do this, man. This week on Fade to Black, an amazing week. Monday night, Suzanne Ross was with us, Loving Portals. Last night, Michael Tellinger, Human Origins. Tonight, Maureen St. Germain is with us, the Akashic Records. And tomorrow night, Barry Littleton is back. He's a contactee. Got a lot to talk about tomorrow night with Barry. And coming up next, my next event coming up is the Conscious Life Expo, which is February 20th through the 23rd, 2026 at the LAX Hilton. Everything you need is in the links below for that. Tonight, Maureen St. Germain is with us, the Akashic Records. And now I want to share something. It's really strange. I used to talk about deja vu a lot. I used to talk about it a lot. And I went through these crazy dreams last night about the show and setting up guests and going through this and going through that. And it was just this weird back and forth dream and setting it up and doing this. And it was long. It was fun. But it was kind of tense and it was fun and everything else. But it's getting ready for the show and setting up and things. It was just weird. And I remember when I woke up this morning, I was like, was that a dream? What was that? Was that a dream? Was I dreaming about something that actually happened? And I went through this whole thing this morning when I got up. And here's what's crazy about that. Tonight we're talking about the Akashic Records. I just went through it with Maureen. It was like, and I'm sitting there, I'm talking to Maureen, and I'm like, all of this just happened. It was just really, really strange. And I'm as I discuss it with you now, I'm kind of revealing it. Even my mind, the wheels are spinning. Like, it's just too weird. Who cracks open? I used to talk about this a lot on the show. Who has cracked open my book and read the future, and then it plays back in your head? I know it sounds weird, and maybe even a little esoteric and strange and stuff. But I used to talk about that a lot. Somebody has read my book. Somebody has read my book, right? Think about that. Has that ever happened to you? And if you're a fan of the show, if you've listened to the show over the years, over the past 10, 12 years, you know that I've talked about this a lot. Just strange things. Well, it just went down, the whole thing. And I'm sitting here scratching my head. Did what? And the seconds are rolling down to start the show. And I am spinning my wheels inside of my brain, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Well, tonight, Maureen St. Germain is here. She's one of my favorite people in the world. We're going to be talking about just that. Higher consciousness, the higher self, the Akashic Records, and all of the tools. She has been on the show many times. She's a dear friend. stupid smart, and that is a phrase. And she will help guide us and maybe even comment on what I just said. Right? It is just the Akashic Records, man, and the past and the future, and what we can do with ourselves to help guide and move into the future. She's the author of 8 books, including the international bestseller, Waking Up in 5D. I have my copy. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black. Her links are below and everything else that you need. But the wonderful Maureen St. Germain is right there. There she is. Cracking.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's always good to spend time with you, Jimmy. And what you don't know is for 2 weeks before I heard from Michelle, your booking person, I haven't heard from Jimmy in a while. I wonder what he's doing. I wonder if everything's okay.
Yeah. And here's that. I used to talk about deja vu a lot when I was going through weird deja vu experiences. Probably when I started to recognize them, I should say, because we always have them. But I started to recognize. I started to just stop and smell the roses a little bit, but started to dive into what the heck is going on. Because when I was a kid, Maureen, I went to my mom. Now I moved out of my mom's house, went to live with my dad when I was 9. So for me to have this conversation with my mom, I was very young, probably 8 or 9. And I went to her, and we're doing a show about this tonight. I went to her. I was like 8. I go, Mom. She goes, yeah. And she was crazy. She was nuts. She was awesome. I go, Mom, somebody's read my book. Right? And she goes, what are you talking about? I said, everything that's happening right now, I dreamt about. And I don't know, I'm 8, trying to make sense of the world, going, what is going on? So I was very young and started to have these experiences. And they have continued throughout my life. It's just absolutely bizarre. And what you and I went through today, I dreamt about last night. I mean, and so what I remember saying to my mom, I was 8, and I said, someone has read my book. Yeah, 8 years old.
Well, you've always been plugged in, but sometimes you listen and sometimes you don't. That's true of all of us. And I was told probably 20 years ago that time is a construct. It's not linear like everyone thinks, like we experience it. And so if time is a construct, maybe your dream last night created this reality, or maybe this reality created your dream, because it's all kind of interwoven. And the thing that I have been brought, to the front is this whole idea that we have multiple lifetimes, multiple versions of ourselves. We're interweaving with those versions of ourselves. And there are so many people that I have met, and I've met the other version of them, or 2 or 3 versions of them. Then I started getting stories from students saying, I met another version of myself. We have the same birthday. We have the same name. Our husbands have the same first name. Their birthdays are the same. On and on and on. So why is this happening? I think it's because we're shifting out of the 3rd dimensional reality, and we're moving into a 5th dimensional expression, which is based on love, synchronicity, and harmony.
What is scarier, that is true, or that is not true? Right? right.
Well, and we're living double lives, because half the time we believe this craziness, and the other half the time we pretend we don't believe it, because we have to go out and go shopping and, buy food or whatever. So we pretend that all that other stuff, that this is normal. The food shopping is normal, and all this other stuff is not. But as a matter of fact, it's all real. And I'm with you. I'm still mystified by all of it, even though I keep being shown and told things which I am willing to share. But as you say, it's a little bit scary because it doesn't add up in a linear way, for sure.
No, it doesn't.
And I think that's the whole point.
I remember before we officially met, I snuck in, this is probably 12 years ago, and I snuck into one of your presentations, and I'm standing in the back of the room, and I was listening to everything that you were saying. And I backed up from that and went, you know, what is scarier? What is scarier, that we live in something that we don't ponder about, that we live in a completely flat 2D reality, that there's nothing there, and you know, when life is over, it's over, and we turn into dust, you know, worm food? Or everything that you are saying from the podium, right, to a packed room, I might add, is true, and is that scary? You know, and I just backed up, thinking to myself, I am with Maureen, and you and I met later on that day, right? And we met later on that day, and we started talking. We became friends ever since, right? We became friends ever since. But I really started to think about that. What's the scarier version, that we become worm food, right? And that's it. It's over, right? You know what I mean? And we're done. Or that there is something else to everything that we think about and wonder about and experience throughout life. That is not imagination. These things that happen to us. You know, what's the scarier version?
You know, I had a client once who, the very first thing when I open someone's records, I'm channeling their opening remarks, and no one else does the Akashic Records like this except for people in my lineage. And so we just download a bunch of stuff, and then we allow the client to ask questions. We don't start out with their questions, and it's very reassuring as a guide to do that, because a lot of times they'll say something wild like, how could you know that? And so in this case, this woman was told that she didn't have to fuss with her life vest that she would wear on her boat. And I could see it was the kind of vest you would wear on a boat. And I could see her scrambling, and the record keepers were showing me that she didn't need to be so concerned. So we go through the whole reading, and at the end she says, you know, I don't believe in reincarnation, but if I did, how did I die in my last lifetime?
Oh man, I would love to be a part of that conversation. You know what's really funny? Talking about childhood, I remember my parents taking me to the movie, The Reincarnation of Peter Proud. Do you remember that movie? Early 70s.
I don't think I saw that one. Yeah.
You're not that old. You're not that old. I'm older than you. But so, and I can't believe my parents took me to that movie, to be honest with you, The Reincarnation of Peter Proud. And I left the theater stunned. I wasn't even sure what I just saw. And then when you compute that to the strangeness that you can experience at the age of 8, 9, 10 years old and discovering life, the effect on that movie has been profound. It has absolutely been profound. And so when somebody brings these things up to me now, I'm fully plugged in. You know, the scarier version is that reincarnation or past lives or the Akashic records are not real. That's much more terrifying to me. You know, you die, you're put in a casket, and you become worm food, and that's it, and that's all there is. That's terrifying. I don't
Yeah.
want to be a part of that.
Well, and too many people have too many experiences. I mean, nowadays there's lots of books about people who have clinically died and then come back. There's stories about messages from, your deceased parents or your deceased child. There's no way that could be known. So, this information isn't, the world we live in isn't limited to just what we can see. And we can't see thoughts, yet we know we have them. We can't see consciousness, but we know we have it. So why would we even challenge the notion that there's something else besides this physical body?
Yeah,
And
that's exactly right. That's exactly
I'm not a user, but there are so many people who have had experiences, mind-altering experiences with psychedelics of any kind, and they all come to me and say, I saw the Merkaba, I saw the geometry, I saw this, I saw that. And how could they see that? Are they all conjuring up the same thing? How is that possible?
Do you remember, let's turn back the clocks a little bit. Believe it or not, we're in 2025. So let's back up the clocks. I remember you and I having a conversation, probably 12 years ago. And I described to you a couple of things and we're going to get into definitions of the Akashic Records. But I went to you and I said, somebody's read my book. And I'm trying to figure this out. I know you remember the conversation. I said, somebody knows there's something going on and I can't figure it out. Somebody got into my file cabinet and has read it. And I know about things that are about to happen because something has been, and you go, you're talking about the Akashic Records. I said, well, maybe. I'm not so sure. But whether it's deja vu or however you want to look at it, and I went to you and with all of these concerns with this, I look back at it now, and I laugh about it. But you started to guide me then as to what the Akashic Records were, and I remember saying to you, I go, is it just like a row of filing cabinets with? Do you remember that conversation? And because that's what I felt like, somebody opened up my filing cabinet and was reading my files. And now I'm wondering if I wasn't too far off of the target. So let's go back to that original conversation. You gave me a definition of the Akashic Records and started me on my journey with this. What are the Akashic Records?
It's the record of things that you have thought and done and said, and it includes your past lives, includes your present life, and it includes potential future. And the reason it's potential future is because there are so many variables. You have not only you, but me and anyone else you're interacting, and our reaction and then your reaction can change the whole system. And get this, ultimately, all the versions of you are already running. So, like in the Robert, I don't know if it was Robert Frost or someone else that said the road less traveled. And I'm looking at this thinking, yeah, but you did both, and it's a little bit like when you talk about someone who wants to go to college and they pick the college that they think they should go to. Then they spend, a month or two there and think, I made a big mistake. I need to go to this other place. And they're able to effectively transfer, but everything is running at the same time until they cut it off. So what happens, for example, when a couple splits, they have the experience of dreams where they're still with the old partner, or they have, they'll be in a meditation and they'll have this experience that's so real, and it's because it is real. It's just not the channel that you're tuned to in this moment. So, you have a strong ability for precognition. So your ability to see what's in front of you shows up in your dream time. And that may be from another lifetime where you were doing this full time, and you carry that tool forward, but you're not using it in the same way. You're not reading for other people, but you're creating awareness for other people to accept this, because a lot of people have these same experiences that you've described, but then they dismiss it and then they forget about it. But then when you talk about it, they go, wait a minute, this did happen to me. And so your new role in this scenario is to be a way shower. See, this can happen. See, this can happen. And this was my experience. So it makes it legit for so many people.
I remember you and I having this kind of, I want to relive a conversation that we had many, many years ago. The file cabinet comparison that I presented to you so many years ago that I just mentioned earlier, is something that I picture like a hall of records, right? The hall of Akashic Records, file cabinets up to the ceiling, infinite rows, right? And depth. And that's how I had always pictured it throughout life, right? Now, with all of the variations that play off of that. And for the uninitiated to this subject, the Akashic Records, I remember going to you saying, has somebody read my files? Has somebody gotten into my files? I feel like somebody has already read my files. Is that possible? And is that what deja vu is? And can the two intermesh, or are they completely separate?
I think deja vu is something slightly different, because deja vu usually occurs when you show up in a location or a situation and everything looks familiar. So, like a friend told me once, who lived in Paris, an American woman who lived in Paris, that she went around the corner into a neighborhood she'd never been in this lifetime, but she knew everything that was there.
Right.
She recognized everything. And she understood this as deja vu. Same lady told me a story about when she was in Egypt and she stood on top of the temple where you can, you climb up and you can get on this flat roof. And she remembers throwing herself off the roof.
Well, okay. So it's kind of like a square can be a rectangle can't be a square kind of thing. Is this an example where deja vu and the Akashic Records kind of overlap a little bit? Where
For sure. And that's the cool thing. You can be, and this is what I meant by location. There's 3 ways you can open a portal. And that's partly what happens with this deja vu. So the portal is you, the experience, and the location. And you only need 2 of those to open the portal. So if you show up in a place you've been before in another lifetime and you had some intense experiences, that opens the portal and you're literally connecting with both experiences at the same time. People who've walked the Trail of Tears, the Native American route where they were ushered into a new place to live and the reservation. People in this lifetime, in our era, who have walked it, but were in embodiment at that time as Native Americans, and they remember either dying or walking it and being so exhausted. They walk that and they have those memories come back right away.
Right.
Yeah. So I think
that
very powerful. Yeah.
That has happened to me a lot in Peru. Yeah, I don't talk about it. So much of it is deeply personal, and plus you're trying to digest it and making sense of everything. But there have been some moments at different locations around the world where I've taken a step and went, I've been here. I don't know exactly when, but it's flooding back. And it's not like you can't, Maureen, at that moment, you can't blurt out to everybody, I've been here. um, because it can be really discombobulating, right? Confusing. And you
Well,
also, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. You still have to remember how to walk and and not get all sucked up into the moment and fall down the mountain or something else. You've got to stay focused, but you don't want to let go of this experience that you're having. And I think that ties directly into the Akashic Records.
Yes. And one of the metaphors that I use to help people understand your experience is we all have the opportunity to watch picture in picture. So we have the TV set on, and then we've got another picture in the corner playing something else, and so that whole concept that you could be watching two different things, entirely different, basketball game and a movie at the same time, is a little bit like this because you're allowing yourself to have two realities. Another way to look at it is you're in the movie theater, and when the protagonist says something funny, you laugh. When something scary happens, you jump. And how is that? Why would that be true? You're sitting in a chair, you're safe, there's no problem. So it's because the mind is capable of so much more. And we have allowed ourselves to be limited, and the brakes are coming off. I mean, that's the big thing. Everything we thought was so is up for grabs. And the version of life that we thought we understood, it ain't so. And there's this thing I call cognitive dissonance. And I think part of what we're doing is adjusting to this strangeness, because if we were hit with it all at once, we would have a meltdown.
We would. I had a meltdown. Okay, let's relive a conversation you and I had 12 years ago. I remember I was like 8 years old, and I ran up to my mom. I was 7, 8. And I said, "Mom, somebody's read my book." Right? And she goes, what are you talking about? And everything that had just happened for like the last 5 minutes prior, and I was freaked out, and I ran up to my mom and I said, I know what's about to happen. Everything, and I was panicked. And she goes, just having a deja vu. And I'm like, and she just brushed it off. And having that kind of profound experience at a very young age, I have been absolutely alert to all of this, growing that there is certainly something else here that we aren't being taught in school.
Indeed. And I'm intrigued by the fact that you used the word book. Someone read my book.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had, that the Akashic Records are literally like a book. But I want to tell you that the Akashic Records are like a wave pool. And there's this fluidness. So everything's moving. Everything's moving because everything in the records is interacting with everything else. And it may be that it's doing this, but you were doing this, where you were really feeling it, in two levels. This is why when we open the records, we're actually standing at the threshold working with record keepers. Because if we were to go into the records, let's say, my partner was involved in my death, and I'm still with that guy, let's say. And then I see it in the records, and I'm in the records when I see it. Do you know what kind of a crazy loop that would create? So we don't ever physically go into the records themselves. And the records themselves are, they're a part of the reality, but they were not part of the original creation. And I understand that the purpose initially was to give us a chance to look at what has been accomplished, to look at what's happening, and to see all of those possibilities. Some people say there are infinite possibilities, but I don't agree. I think that the number of possibilities is based solely on your ability to imagine. So as you imagine something, then it becomes a possibility.
To those that are listening to this, that want to learn about the Akashic Records or are interested, they've heard about it, they don't understand. This can be pretty daunting. It's a pretty heavy subject, isn't it? Is there any way?
Yes.
Is there any way to kind of dumb it down? I mean, it's taken me years to understand, and the same thing for you. But it can be. It's a heavy subject, isn't it?
It is, but I think everybody, I don't know if you've heard me say that everybody's going 5D, whether they're ready or not. It's kind of a
You remember?
humor.
You remember the first time you and I talked about that? I was like, "Well, what about 4D?" But
Do you remember what I called it?
What's that?
Grand Central.
Yeah.
I said, do you remember what I called 4D? Grand Central.
Yeah.
And Grand Central is not a place you spend the night, unless you get stuck there. And that does happen. The scene from What Dreams May Come, where Robin Williams goes to get his wife, that's kind of what 4D is like. It's a perpetual, painful place that your consciousness, your limiting beliefs, prevent you from stepping outside of it. And this takes us back to the thing you just said on, it's mind warping to embrace this information and to accept it. But at the same time, there's too much evidence to ignore it. And so we almost have to allow for the belief that can exist that doesn't have an explanation, as well as the belief we know that does have explanation. So everything we think we know or think we understand changes. It's just like there was a time before Benjamin Franklin that people didn't understand electricity or lightning. And today, look at all we use with electricity, and we're not at all put out of it. And there was that funny movie from a long time ago, The Gods Must Be Crazy, where a person drops a soda can from a plane. And, the whole scenario and the second movie was just as funny. And it reminds us that everything we know is limited. And what we're being asked to do in this era, this fantastical, transformative era, is to unhook and be okay with everything being not always explainable, and to be okay with the fact that it's more important at this point to claim your divine blueprint, to ask for your highest timeline, to activate your inner wisdom channel, so that even when you don't understand what's going on, even if you don't get it, you can be at peace with it. There's really two kinds of knowledge in my book. One kind of knowledge is what someone else says or they experience or they've proven. And the other is your own experience. And your own experience is just as valid as knowledge as anything else. So we get to learn to trust that our inner wisdom is valid for us. And then we get to discover, oh, wow, I had the same thing happen that you just described. Or, oh, wow, I recognize you as another version of me. The two ladies that...
hang on for a second. I have to do this real quick. Hold on. I hate to do this, everybody. Sorry about that. That was the producer of my TV show. I got to pick up and go. I'll call you later. Last week, this is what is nuts. Everything that you and I discuss and talk about and things that we hold so dear. Last week, a paper was published, peer reviewed by a materials scientist that finally spoke the truth. That said, upon further review and her research, consciousness is first and fundamental, followed by material, space, and time. Consciousness is first. Everything else comes after that. Now, of course, our community's been talking about that forever, and we fully understand that. But we're talking about the world of science now. This is a materials scientist, a pragmatic, 2D, non-spiritual, right? Atheist scientist has come to that conclusion. Now, if that is the case, which you and I, of course, and our community believes that is the case, that is going to tip the world of science upside down. That all of these fantastical things, all these woo things, are actually how it is. Is the world ready for that kind of transition? They obviously won't have a choice, but is the world ready for it?
Well, it's interesting because when I was asked about this many, many years ago, I could see that this whole thing of, challenging what we believe is true was shifting and changing. And that the number one thing was humanity would have meltdowns if they had too much too fast. And at one point, my guides were very clear, saying that they were working on a solution. And then a few years later, they were very clear with me that a solution had been found, and it was not to be of concern. And what I have concluded is we are being flooded, and this goes back to the CMEs that happened a couple of weeks ago. We're being flooded with such high vibe energy that we're going to float up just like ships in a harbor, and we're not even going to notice that our belief system has changed. And I'll give you a little example. You have a cousin or a sibling that you talk on the phone with regularly, and they always make fun of you because you believe in astrology. And then one day they call and they say, what's the deal with Virgos? They're always so particular and they're always such a perfectionist. I'm getting tired of them noticing everything I do wrong. And you help them understand. You compared their astrology to the Virgo, and you give them some insight. And you get off the phone and you go, what the heck just happened? They used to make fun of me, and now they're calling me for advice. So that's what's going to happen. The people you least expect are going to suddenly, overnight, be one of you.
Except for Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't see him coming on board. I just don't. I don't see that happening. That'd be a good day. That would be a good day.
As long as he's on someone's payroll, that probably won't happen. But that's not going to last forever.
Yeah, that is true. We have to. It's true, because those from that deterministic background, that scientific background of the hard sciences, and I get school and everything else, and you want to be accepted in your peer group, and you don't want to sound crazy or anything like that. Okay, all right. So you jump in the car and you drive, but there will come a time when if consciousness is first, and there is something else going on besides this 2 and 3D reality that they reside in, that's going to be a paradigm shift. And I'm not so sure it's going to be an easy road. It's not, you know what I mean? You just can't
Yeah, well,
reason
based on
somebody out of
today's understanding. Yeah, but see, that's based on today's understanding. If everybody levels up, like overnight, like when they do the time change, nobody notices the difference. You might feel a little wonky at first, just like you do when they change the clocks. But at the end of the day, you adjust. You become it. You become what's being put at you. And I can't think of the name of the physicist who was behind the movie Contact. But that movie, he
Carl
knew.
Sagan. Carl Sagan.
Carl Sagan, he knew. How else could the lead, was it Jodie Foster? I don't remember.
Right, Jodie Foster. Carl Sagan smoked a lot of weed, and that's what helped. No, I'm being serious. That's what helped him get out of that tunnel vision that science finds themselves stuck in. But I think that they really understand what you and I talk about in our community. They do. They're afraid to verbalize it because of their fan base and who buys their books and
Right.
funding opportunities and everything else. You can't get
Right.
too whacked out. But Carl Sagan, yeah, he definitely went there. But here's the thing: when it comes to consciousness, they are taught. No, they can't measure consciousness. They can't put it in a beaker. They can't put it in a test tube. They can't photograph it. They can't test it. They can't do anything with it, but they know that it exists. So their only way out of that is to say, it's a chemical reaction we don't understand. So they stay there and they never leave the tracks. They just stay there, but they know that can't be the case. To have, you know what I mean? To have somebody come out, so dramatically with a peer-reviewed paper, that could be the tide changing. It really could be.
It could be the total decision point that changes everything. And one of the things that I have been experiencing is what I would call the identity crisis. And what I mean by that is having been elevated and given the opportunity to speak before large groups of people and to work in foreign countries and to be treated like a royal, the backlash was that I got a little spoiled. And I recognized that I needed to unhook from that crazy self-important place. I'm sure this happens to you, Jimmy, where you go someplace, people recognize you and like a conscious life, and they want to talk to you. They want to hear what you have to say. They kind of hang on you a little bit. And so now you're at a party and you start talking about yourself and you don't realize, wait, maybe this crowd doesn't really care, and you realize, I think I've been an ego here. And what a shock when you recognize, and all of us are starting to do this. It isn't just Maureen St. Germain. Every one of us is recognizing, my experience is important, but it's consciousness that's leveling up and helping all of us see something bigger than what we ever saw before. And I think that's the real point with this paper, is that if consciousness came first, then whatever our consciousness gives us is more real than what we can touch, see, hear, or feel.
That's right. Here's the thing with that whole idea. Probably there's 8 billion people on this planet. I would say, if you can speak and think, if you're not 2 years old, 1 year old, right? But if you're old enough to speak and think, then you have no issues with what consciousness is, could be, and how it exists out there in the universe. And that includes all of those scientists and everybody else. And the thought of higher consciousness and this, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't think the world has a problem with that. Some people don't want to necessarily speak about it, but we all think it, and it doesn't matter what your scientific background is. So, yeah, I think it's a brave new world for sure. Okay, what are you doing with the light? Are you adjusting your lights on your phone?
Well, what happened is we have all the lights go off at 9:00 in case I
Oh.
forget to turn off the cameras.
Mm.
So they went out on me, and I'm going, what the heck? And I have to use my camera to turn them back on.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's better.
Okay. Yeah. But you know what I mean? I think the world gets that consciousness is first and fundamental, and everything else arises out of that. It makes perfect sense to turn it around and make it a chemical thing, or a particle thing, a matter thing. That's way too convoluted. It's too complicated, and you're trying to make it something that it is not. And I think everybody is comfortable with that.
I have a funny story from years and years ago, long before you and I met. I was dating this guy, and we'd been dating for a while, and I recognized that I had been with this man before energetically. And he sat me down one day and he said, can you give me any explanation on why my feelings for you are so strong? And I looked at him and I said, well, maybe we've been together in another lifetime. And he said, oh, no, I don't believe in reincarnation. I'm a Catholic. I said, okay, I champion your right to hold that belief as long as it pleases you. And he looked at me and he leaned back and he said, well, does that mean like your grandfather and my grandmother were married? And I said, well, sort of. I never heard from him again. Now, it's very interesting to me.
Right.
It's very interesting to me because here he was declaring that his feelings for me were stronger than when he proposed to his wife, that, from 20 years ago. But he was not happy about it. So, he was complaining.
Here's the other thing with the idea of a higher consciousness, and when somebody that is again pragmatic, I'll just say pragmatic, atheist, non-spiritual, whatever, they talk to themselves all the time in their own head. They're talking to a higher consciousness. And if you have you know what I mean? In the third person too, by the way, they're probably just arguing with themselves. But when that is going down, right. And then just the ability to do that says something. And you need to step back and say, what is creating this? Where is this coming from? It's not the magic of chemicals. It is something else that is out there. And you need to embrace it. But that I truly believe that. Anybody that, Maureen, let me get your comment on this. Anybody that says, it's just chemistry, it's biology, man, there's nothing to this, I don't understand it, but that's it. Anybody that says that, just to have that thought come out of your mouth and you process that, that's all the answers that you need for what consciousness is. It's way beyond chemistry, isn't it? It's just way beyond chemistry.
Yeah, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And the cool thing is, if everything is consciousness, then even if we didn't believe in reincarnation, even if we, didn't believe in multiple versions of ourselves, we're connecting at consciousness level before we ever show up in person. And that's awesome. Now you can say that I was in your dreams last night and I'm on your show today. That's really funny
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
yummy.
Yeah, crazy, crazy. How many times have I said to you, man, you're messing with me? It's
Yeah.
because only because that is the reality of everything, of existence, of everything. And once you just step back and start to embrace it and understand it, that can be just as scary as staying in denial, because it is it is wonderful.
Here's the thing. When you own it, like you are owning it here and demonstrating for our audience, it gives you your sovereignty. It gives you your full power. When we trust someone else to tell us the rules to live by or the way to think, and we follow them, to the T, we are giving away our power so clearly to get an insurance policy that it's all going to work out. Whereas, someone like you interview so many people and you're taking in so many different kinds of information that you're filtering through your consciousness and finding the match in what you have experienced, what you have come to believe. And that's mind expanding. And that's the benefit of for your audience, our audience in this moment, that we could increase our capacity to have a multidimensional experience in this reality and still have a body and still walk around and talk and buy groceries, whatever it is, because that's never been done before. And that's the thing that the mystics, including me, are saying. This ability to hold multi-dimensional awareness, that you saw me in your dream time and I'm on your show today, and you didn't even kind of put that together until I'm on the show and things go wonky and you're going, crap, that happened last night. And so did you create it or did I create it?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
and so we're all shifting and we're all opening up to a much bigger reality. It's like this. I was in a gym in a hotel and I'm on the machines and I'm thinking, oh man, I forgot my water. And there's a cooler over there, but there's no water jug over it. And I'm thinking, somebody should have replaced the water jug. They took the jug away and they didn't fill it up. And then right before it was done, somebody walks up to the cooler with a little cup and gets water. And that's when I realized it was plumbed in. My reality said that water cooler ought to have a jug on top.
That's a good metaphor right there. That's pretty solid. That's pretty solid. When I was a kid, I developed. This is something you and I have discussed before, and we're repeating it, but it is tasty. Is that as I started to experience deja vus, what I would call deja vus, as a kid and throughout life, now I embrace the deja vu. But the deja vu is real. That is as real as anything else that you can think of in your life. Deja vu is real. And if deja vu is real, then that is the connection to everything else that we question and ponder and wonder about, right?
Mhm.
Because
Right.
there isn't anybody on this planet, I don't care who it is, that hasn't experienced a deja vu. And explain a deja vu is either time travel, if you don't believe in it, so then you time traveled somehow, right? Or if you understand what is going on, then deja vu is the perfect example to anybody else that is questioning their reality, right? Isn't that a fundamental way to look at it?
Yes, indeed. And it gives a person permission to start to believe more than they used to believe. And I think that's the number one thing that's happening right now in us and around us. And if we don't have an experience, we know someone who has.
To say if somebody says to me, "I've never had a deja vu," they're lying. They're lying. It's not even true. It's not even true. And but it when we look at the examples that I've laid out since the beginning of the show, does deja vu fall into that category of access to the Akashic Records, of what it represents and the ability to?
Yes, because the records are memories. They're not the real thing. They're the representation of the thing that has happened. And so that's why it's so easy to begin to see that these deja vu, these lineup of events, are you literally tunneling through time and experiencing that event and this event and how they're connected. And that's like, oh my God, so powerful. You know, I remember having these two Asian guys, and they each had been in class. One lived in Seattle, one had lived in New York, and they both wanted to go on a trip with me to Egypt at the same time. So I put them in the room together. It turns out they were both born in Beijing, and I knew when I put them in the same room that they were the same soul, two different expressions of the same soul. And one guy was a really big guy, and the other one was a really petite guy, you know, two different kinds of Asian men. And they came to me. I didn't tell them anything. I thought, I'm not saying a word. Let them figure it out. And so in the course of the trip, and of course, being in Egypt doesn't hurt either.
Right.
They came to me and said, we're the same soul. We figured this out. And that's what's happening with everybody. They're if they don't have the experience, they have someone come to them and say, look, this has been my experience. Can you offer me any explanation? And a lot of times, the person who, I'll call them the non-believer, you know, checks in with somebody who already has some awareness. And the person with awareness that they trust will help them expand their consciousness quickly.
Last week, I'm in Boulder taping Beyond Belief. Okay. I'm on set. Guest is in front of me. We are we are taping. Cameras are rolling. Okay. In the moment. And as I live and breathe, I start having a deja vu. And as that's going, and I kind of spaced out for a second, and I said, hold on. And as I said that, I go, the deja vu was me saying, hang on, I'm having a deja vu. That was the deja vu.
No.
I haven't even said it yet. And I'm going through the whole thing, and I kind of spaced out, and I looked out over there, and I went, man, all of this, and I'm listening to the guest answer, and I go, cut. I've never said cut on the set. Never.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. And Julie, my producer, she comes in, it's a big, you've been there, it's a big studio. And she comes in, she goes, what's going on? I go, what's going on? I'm having a deja vu of you saying what's going on. And then that I'll play, and I'm like, man, we got to take a break here. I got to reset. I got to get the timelines back matched up because we got this big gap here.
So crazy. I'm going to suggest an explanation to you. This has happened to me as well. And what I have noticed is that there's two, what I've been shown is the explanation. So see if this fits for you. There's two versions of reality running that are very similar. And one's sitting on top of the other. And you have two of them running, but one's slightly ahead. And the one that's slightly ahead is what you're going to say next. And you step into it. And then you move into that again. And again, I taught a whole class like this
Wow,
once.
that's heavy. That's heavy. That
Mhm.
man, that's why you're my friend right there. That's good. See, but the thing is, now that you planted that in my head, thank you for doing that. Now I'm going to think about that.
Mhm.
I need to do a show.
Yeah, and there's more to that story that I can tell later.
Okay, let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight,
Okay.
Maureen St.
Okay.
Germain. I knew you were going to say that. Our guest is Maureen St. Germain. Maureen, stay right there. Tonight we're talking about the Akashic Records. Great, fun, open conversation that we always have with Maureen. Maureen, stay right there. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. So to our YouTube channel, get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. I am hosting, speaking, and presenting once again for the Conscious Life Expo, the largest conference of its type in the world. February 20th through the 23rd, 2026 at the LAX Hilton. Speakers, event, and schedule easy. Just visit consciouslifeexpo.com. I will be hosting and speaking at the Sedona Ascension Retreat, March 20th through the 22nd, 2026 in Sedona, Arizona. An amazing list of speakers, and it's beautiful Sedona. Come and hang out with us and just go to SedonaAscensionRetreats.com. I'm heading back to the Midwest for the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through the 3rd, 2026, in Delavan, Wisconsin, at the Lake Resort. It is beautiful. This is a great conference right in the heart of the Midwest, where I'm from. I'll see you there. Just go to Contact Modalities Expo, that's XPO.com. I will be hosting and presenting once again at Contact in the Desert. That's May 28th through June 1st, 2026, the largest UFO conference in the world. Come and hang out with us June 23rd through July 1st. Tickets and everything else that you need is at contactinthedesert.com. Want to change your life? Want that paradigm shift? Then visit Peru with Brian Forster and myself for the Inca Celebration of the Sun, June 23rd through July 1st, 2026. A full 10 days of visiting the country, all of the amazing sights, and of course, the celebration of the winter solstice. It's all simple to do. Go to hiddenincatours.com. Come join us for the Monty Python Scotland Tour, August 1st through the 9th, 2026. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event where you get to go to the castles from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. August 1st through the 9th, 2026. Just visit HaleyARamsey.com. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? Go to JimmyChurchRadio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut.
Jimmy Church, Gaia TV, Fade to Black, here at Machu Picchu with Brian Forster and Hidden Inca Tours. Amazing tour so far, Brian, but we're here to announce what we're going to do next year in 2026. What's going on?
Okay, November 2026, we're going to have our major tour of Peru and Bolivia, either a pre or post tour of Paracas and Nazca on the coast. And then after that, 6 days in Easter Island.
Bucket list, Easter Island. Come join Brian and I and his amazing team here at Hika Tours for Peru, Bolivia, and Easter Island. Signing out. Say goodbye, Brian.
Bye, gang.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com.
All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, one of my dearest friends, Maureen St. Germain, is back with us. She's absolutely amazing. Talking about the Akashic Records and, you know what? Higher consciousness. Wait a minute. What is that? Here's the thing, Maureen. Every time I think I've got it, I don't. Right. And higher consciousness is for those. Let's start right there. There are people listening right now. We're getting a weird echo. You might want to turn the speakers down. We're getting an echo that wasn't there before. But anyway, higher consciousness. Every time I think I've got it, I get more questions. What's your definition of higher consciousness?
Oh, I think that's the whole point, Jimmy, that no matter how much you know, there's always more to learn. So how much you experience, there's more to experience. I also think that the whole business of being in a body or being in consciousness has to do with the whole idea that we separated from that which is inseparable to expand the database.
I'm more confused than I was before I asked the question.
All right. So you're part of Source. I'm part of Source. We're all one. But we don't experience it that way. We experience individuality. So we separated from the mass of consciousness and created little bits of consciousness. We separated from that which is inseparable, meaning we pretended we've got some kind of a game going on where there's, curtains or something. So we could expand experience. Because if you're already everything, how are you going to expand your experience?
How do we recognize what higher consciousness is? If we want to connect with it and understand it, how do we recognize it?
We use our heart. And we feel differently. Our awareness of our physical body changes. When you have one of those mind-bending experiences like you described before the break, you had a sensation in your body that something was different. It wasn't just that you were on repeat. It was a challenge to your feelings and your awareness. And, when people meditate, they feel differently. Their body expands, their energy expands. So how do you know you're in higher consciousness? Is that you find everything funny. There's two rules of thumb that I tell people. Higher consciousness is funny, and you don't take offense. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the term the laughing Buddha, but the laughing Buddha is from the future. And one day when I was meditating on this, I asked, why is the future Buddha laughing? And the answer that came back was because he's been to the future and it's funny. And the whole idea that this is all a big game. And so higher consciousness causes us to see the humor, the joy in everything. So, you get a flat tire and you start to laugh because you think, oh, this is perfect. I didn't want to go to work today anyway. Stuff like that, so you find the joy. Somebody insults you and you say, thank you. It makes people go, whoa, what's going on? So the joy we experience is higher consciousness. And we can artificially create that by certain activities, certain breath work, certain meditation postures, and those kinds of things. But to fully embody it while we're in our body and present and talking to each other, that's just amazing. Just amazing. It's hard to, frame it, but I can tell you that one time I was at a family event, and 6 weeks earlier, my younger sister, who I was very close to, had died in a car crash. And our family was now together celebrating someone else's birthday. And we had agreed years earlier that we would do this event for this birthday. So none of us wanted to cancel because we didn't want to disappoint the grandfather that we were celebrating. And I went into bliss because I was so sad about losing my sister and so thrilled that I could be with my family so soon after we were holding all this grief. And that bliss caused me to react in a really uplifting way to everybody. And at one point, one person who was kind of like the sour grapes person in the group, she said to me, "What do you eat?" And I smiled and I thought, she's not asking what I eat. She's asking me how I can stay in my joy. And I was just in this place of such deep gratitude. So because she was kind of the black sheep of this group, no one really wanted to interact with her too much. So she chose to sit at my table. And she said to me, "Do you ever get to my city?" And as it turns out, I was going to be in her city, 3 months down the road. And she said, "Would you come and stay with me?" And I thought, ooh, this seems dangerous. She's a little trouble here. But I checked in and my guide said it wouldn't make any difference one way or the other. So I thought, well, then I'm going to do it. And I stayed with her and she treated me like royalty. And before I left, she thanked me for coming and said, "No one in the family has ever visited me."
Ooh. Ooh. How do you respond to that?
I just said, "Thank you. I had a blast." Mm-hmm.
I think so many of the, I'm going to say uninitiated, those that are in denial. And because even though I went through life experiencing just amazing stuff, and I knew that there was something else going on, and it started me on this 50-year journey that I'm still in the middle of, and I understand less today than I did before, but I do know that there's something to figure out. But so many are in denial, and they're not in denial that there is something else going on and to experience. I think there's a fear factor involved because there's a paradigm shift in their life and the fundamental way of thinking, and the way that you're raised, that gets shaken. And I think that frightens a lot of people but they know, right? They know that they've experienced deja vu or whatever it may be. But I think that's the frightening part, that to finally jump in the pool without your floaties on scares a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that that's true. And it also makes me circle back to something you said earlier, that everyone has had a deja vu experience. And if they say they haven't, they're in denial. They're not aware. And I think that's what happens, that when those experiences that would open your mind to higher consciousness happen, if the fear factor is so great, you pretend it didn't happen. You pretend it didn't happen in such a way that you can block it out. You can actually block it out of your awareness and then say that never happened.
Yeah. I don't need to connect with my higher self. I'm just fine. There's no such thing. And you know what? Go ahead and say that. The universe is going to reach out and slap you upside your head. And whether you admit it to your friends or whatever, you know yourself the truth, the experience with that. I don't need to connect with my higher self. I'm just fine. Oh, you just wait.
Yeah.
We'll revisit that statement at a later date, my friend.
And you know what'll happen? They will have a connection. They'll build the connection. You'll come back and say, "You remember when you told me blah, blah, blah?" And they're going to say, "Nope, I don't remember that."
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I'm gonna share something funny with you. My first wife, Kathy, she's no longer with us. Kathy, I'm going to share this story. This is a true story. We are in Lamaze class, right? She's pregnant with our daughter, Nicole. We're in Lamaze class. And so anyway, it's such a long story. I'm going to keep it real short. So the teacher this night, she goes, "Okay, tonight is drug night. We're going to talk about drugs. And so if there isn't any scientific proof of this, but if you can avoid getting an epidural, if you can avoid drugs during,
Labor.
childbirth, during labor, it's probably better for the child, right?" She says, Kathy, I'm telling the story. She goes, "I've got a high tolerance for pain. I don't need drugs." I looked at her. I was like, "Since when? What?" Right? And so I'm like, note to self, right? Okay, so now fast forward. She's in labor, right? She's in 12 hours of labor. It was 24 hours of labor, but we're 12 hours into it. And she goes, "I can see the EKG. I can see the printout, right, of when the right, and I can see it in advance before she feels the pain. I'm watching it, right? Okay, we're in this rhythm,
Whoa.
and so I'm watching it, and I go, okay, here it comes." She goes, "I know." Right? Anyway, doctor comes in and goes, "Okay, you want an epidural?" She goes, "Yes." And I turned to her and I said, "What happened to that high tolerance for pain you talked about in Lamaze class?" And she says, "I never said that." I never, ever, ever said that. And that's the whole thing when it comes to the denial part. At the crucial moment, you need to face your reality, the connection to higher self, to a higher consciousness, to the reality that may be out in front of you that you don't necessarily see or have seen before. That's the thing. When it's there and it faces you, you need to back up. Forget about what you said before. Forget about what you thought in the past. Run naked, take your clothes off, and experience what is going on and see that there is something else to this world of ours. And that's what's crucial. And it's hard for people to cross that line. They just want to stay in their, you know what I mean, and keep the blinders on.
They seek that which is familiar, because what is familiar is predictable, and predictable implies safety. It isn't always true, but the freedom to choose something new and different is often overlooked for fear.
It's
of
hard.
Failure.
It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard. It's not easy. Nobody said this was easy, right?
Mm-mm.
It's really hard to to change your modality that you were raised on and everything else and that you were taught. It's difficult. If it was easy, everybody would do it, and that's the thing. And also peer pressure. Peer pressure. Connecting with your higher self. Maureen, you know me well. And I say it every night on the show. So people need to understand. I friggin' ride a Harley. I listen to Pantera. I'm a heavy metal dude. All right. But I've connected with my higher self, damn it. And it's to admit from my background and who I am and what I'm happy about. It takes a lot. It's okay. It's okay to connect to your higher self and to get a different way of looking at life and navigating through this thing. Nobody said it was easy. I don't give a shit anymore. I just don't.
What's really cool is I am offering a business leaders intuition course this next year. And I've got a boatload of quotes from famous people who have said what you said, that they're following their intuition, they're following their higher guidance, they're following their higher self, and that the most important decisions were through that method, and that when they ignored it, they regretted it. And some have even said everything that was important I got from my higher self. These are, well-known business leaders. And I'm just so jazzed because I came across a couple of quotes and then I started looking and I went, oh my gosh, these business leaders, they're telling it like it is. And yet the average person doesn't realize it. Jeff Bezos, I can't start naming names, but you know what I'm talking about. They're all super wealthy, super well-known, and they're all saying the same thing. And I am so excited because I have a very logical, methodical way for people to get that connection in 45 days. And then that's it. They're with it for the rest of their life, which is so freaking amazing.
You're a great teacher. You're going to be speaking at the Conscious Life Expo with me again this year. And one of my favorite things to do, and I do this every time with you, is I sneak in and I'll stand in the back, distract you a little bit to get you to wave at me. But
you do?
I do every time. But the way that you teach, and I get to sit back. You're so good at the Conscious Life Expo because first off, people are hungry for knowledge, and they're there, and you're a great teacher. But being able to communicate this to everybody, like I've watched you do so many times, it's got to be fun and enjoyable. And I wanted to ask you really quick, what are you going to be speaking about this year at Conscious Life Expo? Are you doing a post-conference this year?
No.
Okay.
No.
What are you going to speak about this year?
But I am doing opening ceremonies with the crew. And what I'm going to be speaking about is sovereignty is the new 5D and how that, works. And it's exactly what we were talking about, that the self-confidence doesn't need to be developed. It just needs to be trusted. And there's a difference, because, if you wait for somebody else to tell you how good you are, it's too late. You need to just trust what's coming through you and let her rip. And it's happening for people. So that part's exciting. So the new sovereignty is really about intuitive developments that's so clear that they're accessing the records like you're doing without trying. Someone said to me, well, why do you need the system that you teach to open the records? And my response is, you don't. You could do it on your own. I've just got a step-by-step method that ensures your success. And some people like to have a coach. Some people can teach themselves. So it's the knowledge. And someone else said to me, why are you charging so much for this particular training when you gave it away for free on the radio? And my response was, the knowledge is free. The coaching is what you're paying for.
That's right. That's right. You know what I said to my mom when I was little? I was like 8. I went up to my mom, and I think about this a lot. I think I told you, you and I talked about this privately. I went up to my mom. I said, somebody's read my book. I'm just a little kid, man. I'm like this tall. Somebody's read my book. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, things are happening that I already know about. And it feels really weird to me. I said, nah, it's nothing new. And the way that she dismissed it was telling me that's just the world. That's just the way it is. And now with what I know now with teachers like you, it all makes sense. But we all, what happened to me as a kid, Maureen, I'm nothing special. Everybody experiences that. It's whether you stop and recognize it and try to understand what is happening.
But think about this. What if only a few of us have this gift, this knowing, and everyone else is an extra? And as soon as all of us special people, and I'm trying to be facetious here, as soon as all the special people, fully embody their gift, all the extras are going to flip in an instant. Why not?
Did the exact right? And this is, I feel empathy for the planet, in that all of us in the past, previous generations and previous lives, this was just a part of life. And somewhere along the line, Maureen, we lost that connection to the higher self and understanding what is going on out there with the connection to the higher self. And we are just now trying to reconnect and understand it. And I feel bad.
Absolutely.
That's my feeling. That's what I have learned. If I've learned a little bit, I've learned that.
I think that's right on. And I see it as like, somebody's layered you up with coats or layers of opinions, and you think that's how things are. And until you realize, oh no, that's not how things are, and I'm not buying it anymore. And what's interesting is when people get this connection, you read a newspaper headline and you go, well, that's not true. I don't know how I know. I just know that's a fib. Or somebody tells you something and you think, they fudged that one. So that's really important that we understand. And why is it? There was this time when my guides told me, read everything you could about liars and lying. And so I have all these books all over my space. And one of my clients comes in, he says, why have you got all these books on liars? And I explained to him, and he said, you need radical honesty, because that'll really hit you between the eyes. And so none of us are ready for radical honesty. It's pretty heavy duty. And the whole thing is, when you can no longer hide, then radical honesty isn't needed either, because everybody already knows your shit. It's kind of like when you said, you got to stand up and walk through the thing naked and just show up.
Yep. Take the mask off. Take the mask off. I was probably 21, 22, and I'm going through this crazy spiritual thing that we all do at that age, right? And start to question everything, and you're confused because you're taught one thing and you're figuring out that life is something else. It's pretty radical. Somebody said to me, I was young, and he goes, Church, you need to take off the mask. This was an older black guy, by the way, black man that I worked with, much older. He's probably 50 or 60, and I'm 21, 22. Church, you got to take the mask off. I was like, what are you talking about?
Wow.
You're wearing a mask. I see one side of you, and that's a cool. Then the other time, man, you're wearing a mask. and he eventually helped me through that and explained it to me. And I'm telling you, it was like I started looking
That's
at
freaking
everybody.
awesome. Because
Yeah.
you could have blown him off and you didn't. You know?
Hey,
And it's true. We're all taking off the mask, you
that's
know?
right, that's right. When you start to understand the reality of what is going on and what television, life, people talking, drive, whatever it is, communicate, whatever, everything around you is just all bullshit, right? And you start to figure that at a very young age. It's like you're looking at everybody. You're like, well, he's wearing a mask, she's wearing a mask. That's not real. They just lied to me. That ain't you know what I mean? It's just like, oh my God, it's like everything. It's crazy. And I was bumping into walls. I was really confused. But what was great about it, and now that I'm more of an understanding adult and I have friends like you, I just look back and go, you know what? I'm glad that I was confused because I could have stayed in the car. I could have kept the mask on and just gone through life and not given a crap. But now I realize that that's what helped me the most. Those little comments.
You know, we're very fortunate when somebody says something like that to us. Because up until that moment, we don't know we're wearing a facade. We think that that's who we are.
That's right.
And when someone calls us out, says, wait just a minute, it changes how we think about ourselves. And when we change how we think about ourselves, our consciousness expands. Yeah, so it goes right back to consciousness. Just so wonderful.
You brought up lying earlier, right? I'm not going to get into specifics, but I was young, same period, 20, 21 years old. I'm going through these fundamental changes. It was so wonderful. But I caught a major institution, I'm not going to get into the subject, in a lie. And I went and confirmed the lie, found out the truth, vetted it. And I thought, it's like one of the biggest things I thought, the world is believing that lie. And if that is the case, what else is bullshit? You know what I mean? And I'm so thankful that happened. At the time, it brought me to tears. I'm like, oh man, it's all fake. And but now I'm just so thankful. It just really changed. I remember you telling me once. Let's turn back the pages a little bit. You said to me, "There's an exit ramp on the freeway, and you can choose to take it or not. And if you want to, you said something. I'm paraphrasing now. You bypass the 4D off ramp, and you go to 5D, and you take that off ramp." That was such a great metaphor. Can you expand on that thought process on going from 3D and getting and understanding what 5D is and taking that off ramp and starting that adventure?
When we're in 3D,
do you remember that conversation? Do you remember when you
do?
Yeah,
I do. And I'm very grateful. Those metaphors just flow right through me like juice. My awareness is in 3D, we use boxes to define things, compartmentalize things, and we use those boxes to judge. And we judge, okay or not okay. And we put ourselves in those boxes when we fail and when we succeed. And in 4D, we expand the emotions to such a degree that we're now not able to think straight, but we're not able to be in our heart either. So, fourth dimension is a place that's faster in vibration than 3D. So things are happening fast and intensity is great. But when we slide into 5D, we have this feeling of comfort and peace. And it doesn't mean everything's peaceful around you. It means that you have awareness that you are source itself, but you don't define it that way. You simply feel connected to everything in such a way that you make choices that are aligned with the highest choice you could make. You know, so if I know you're a big coffee drinker and I know the brand you like, I'm going to make sure I have that in my house when you come to visit, because I want you to have what you like. But if I'm in 3D, maybe I'm not paying attention. Maybe I just, you know, say, would you like a cup of tea? And you're thinking, what's wrong with this woman? She knows I drink coffee. You see what I mean? So in 5D, all the optimal choices become your new normal. And you don't even have to think about it. It just works out. Your environment, your way of operating. It's a little bit like when you go to someone's house. In most cases, they're going to invite you in. They're going to offer you something to drink, water, tea, Coke, whatever. Most of us wouldn't think of having someone in our house in America without giving them something to drink. It's kind of like how we do things. So that's your normal MO. In 5D, whether we knew it or not, whether I knew that you were a fan of Fade to Black coffee or not, I would have it in my house when you come. I would automatically have it. I wanted to try it 2 weeks ago, and then you show up. I go, oh, I've got the perfect thing for you. That's what happens. And
Right.
so decisions and the choices are still there. We still have free will in 5D. But in 5D, we're looking at choices and we're always wanting the highest choice. You know, and that's something people don't realize, that whenever we make a choice, we have, you know, 4 or 5 possible ways that can be expressed. And there's always a highest choice that is sometimes counterintuitive. And that's very interesting, because when you
wait. No, that would mess me up.
Yeah.
That would mess me up.
Yeah.
As soon as you figure out, right, you're leveling off and you're understanding 5D, your intuition is kicking into gear, you're lining that up with your higher consciousness and you're listening to your intuition, you're talking to yourself, you're making all those connections, and then you want to flip it over and flip it up. Just as I start to get my, you know what I mean?
I'm going to give you a real example. This happened to me, and I can also give you a metaphor. But the thing that happened to me was I'd been working as a PR person and a fundraiser in a corporate job for a nonprofit. And it was my job to get some publicity for this thing that we were doing at the agency. And I had called a reporter probably 8 times throughout the day, never got through. And I was kind of running out of time. So as I'm packing up, trying to get myself out the door to go home, my higher self came in and said, call the reporter. And I said, no, I'm hungry. I want to go home. And again, call the reporter. No, my kids are waiting on me. And, you know, they're waiting for me to fix dinner. And it's 5 o'clock. Call the reporter. So it was 3rd time my higher self came in and told me to do this. So I call the guy. He answers the phone and he says, Maureen, how could you possibly know I would be here at this time? I am never here at 5 o'clock. All I could do was laugh, right? But that's not the end of the story. The next day, my story was on the front page of the largest newspaper in the state. That's something that was counterintuitive. I needed to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you a metaphor. You could be on your way to to where you do your recording. Now, I think you still do your recording in your studio that you created, but let's say it was not where you were in the moment, and you're on your way home from something else, maybe from another outside appointment, and you get the very clear message, pick up batteries. And you're thinking, I don't think I have enough time to do this. But you get, no, you need to stop and pick up batteries. No, I don't have time. So you finally stop and pick up the batteries. And then it turns out that you needed the batteries for some piece of equipment that was for your show, and you didn't know you were out. That's counterintuitive, but I'll bet you that's happened to you. Something like that, maybe.
Okay. There's two things that personal that I want to respond to that with. The first thing is this: when people go through an experience like that, and then they follow it up with, let's just say they're in denial of everything, higher self and consciousness, 3D, 5D, the Church of Woo, all this stuff. They're in denial. Okay. But then the experience happens. Higher self is talking. Something is happening, and they're in denial. And then after that, they have an opportunity to go, oh, something else was going on there. Yes, I'm going to recognize that. Too many people go, coincidence, right? Okay, and dismiss it.
But,
right? But hold on. Let me finish. So my example to that is this: I'm in my car next to my house. I'm driving on a street that I know well. I'm coming up to the stoplight. Stoplight is green for me to drive through. 35 miles an hour, maybe 40. I'm going to go through this green light. There's a man and a woman standing on the corner. They step into the crosswalk, okay, against the light. They're not supposed to do that. I see them do that. And I look at the lady and I hit my brakes. Tap, right? Okay. A little freaked out, little heart thing and all of that. They step back up on the curb, but I slowed down for an instant. You know what happened? A white pickup truck, a ginormous dually Ford white pickup truck, ran the red light. If she hadn't, right, this whole thing right in a row, if I hadn't noticed them, if I hadn't seen them step into the crosswalk, if I hadn't tapped on my brakes, all of that goes away. The intuition, right? The higher self, everything reaching out. I blow through the green light as I'm supposed to, and I get T-boned by a pickup truck doing 50 miles an hour. That's listening to your higher self. That's observing all of that. Now, as I pull through that light and I cruise through in my heart, I'm like, oh my God, I almost got hit. No, I didn't. That was all lined up in a row. Now, I have a choice right there to dismiss all of that as coincidence, or that is my higher self, and that is intuition all on the fly in nanoseconds, right? That's when you go, okay, there's something else to this planet. There's something else to this reality. You choose to understand that something like this can happen. And you follow your intuition, you listen to your higher self, you observe what's going on. And that's really the truth, and it's those little things, Maureen, where I have people like you that can help guide me, but you have to stop and understand everything that is possible, everything that did happen, and then the moment, and recognize it for what it is. Don't be in denial. Don't fight it. Don't fight it. And that's my own personal experience, And so when the audience hears you,
lots of chances.
There are lots of chances
to have these kinds of experiences. Like in the story I told, let's say you blow off getting the batteries, and then you get home and you start your show and you realize, oh my God, we're going to run, the mic needs a battery or whatever. And you think to yourself, I should have listened. And it is those moments that you're training yourself to listen.
It is so
Yeah.
funny.
I
It
think
is so
it's
funny.
fabulous that you can share that story and understand that, you were totally protected in that situation.
How important is it? You talked about this in the beginning, and we just went right past it into something else, like you and I always do. But you said at the beginning that it is so important to be happy, to smile, and to think positive, and to not get drawn down by the negative stuff. But that's being drawn down by the negative is too easy. It's too easy to be a victim of that. How do we
Well,
fight that? How do we get rid of that?
we change our self-image because we're attracting it.
Right.
So, when someone's negative to you, if your response is supportive to them, it changes the vibe. I've had people on the phone make mistakes, and I'll smile and say, "Oh, I've done that too." Or maybe they're late and they're all upset because they've held me up. And my response is, "It's happened to me. Don't even think twice. It's okay." And that immediately changes the vibe. So we have the opportunity to maintain the peace, to help others elevate their own opinion of themselves. At the same time, we also have the opportunity to take criticism and even snide remarks or attempt at humor that are a little bit dismissive are ways for us to level up. And when somebody does that, we can choose to take the hit, or we can pretend. I used to say, this is kind of sexist, but I used to say, just pretend you're a dumb blonde. You know why? Because blondes only hear compliments. And
There's nothing
I'm
wrong
being a
with
little
saying
bit,
that. There is nothing wrong with you can say it because you're blonde anyway. But here's the thing. As crazy as it sounds, check this out. Oxford just announced their word of 2025. All right. You know what it was? It's exactly what we're talking about, by the way. Rage bait. Rage
say
bait.
it again.
Rage bait.
What does that mean?
Okay. What that means is a way of using the internet and social media to piss you off. All right. Rage bait. Yeah. Now, just the simple fact that was recognized by Oxford says that, well, I believe it to be true, number one, but that is a big part of the issues with the planet and trying to get to 5D. If you are a victim to rage bait, if you allow somebody to get at you, right? That's the problem. Be a dumb blonde. Right? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I live my life by that. I just don't let negativity get to me. You know, when many years ago, back when you and I first met, I was at a conference and for 4 days, and at that conference, I didn't access the news. I didn't watch the TV in my hotel room or anything like that. It's totally disconnected. 4 days. I come back from the conference feeling wonderful because I hadn't watched the news, right? And I walk in and I turn on the TV and I'm walking through and CNN is on. I think it was CNN, whatever, news is on. And an ISIS video is playing on the screen of ISIS with, I'm just going to say, humans in cages doing bad things, right? I don't want to talk about it, but that's on. And immediately, Maureen, my body changed. I felt sick. I felt bad. I went, you know what? I'm never watching the news ever again. And I haven't. I'm not going to let negativity change my DNA. You know what I mean? My water molecules started vibrating differently. I didn't dig that at all. I was in such a state of happiness, and to have it taken from me by the media, no, I put my foot down. I recognize that, and I've lived that way ever since.
That's awesome. What a great experience to have been at that amazing high, you know, just from being in that environment and being with people that were, you know, holding that same vibe, and then to walk in and be hit with that. It's huge, you know, and I am a big proponent of turning off the Wi-Fi and not watching TV, and you know, deliberately choosing what I would call quiet time, that you don't have that stuff going on, and that you can regroup. You know, I don't know what your thought or feeling is about the white lines in the sky, but I noticed one time when I was on vacation at one of the national parks that the sky looked like an apple pie crust with all these crisscross lines, right?
Yep.
And I would energetically clear it out. And it would happen at dawn, it would happen at noon, and it would happen at dusk. And I knew at dawn and dusk there's more drift. So I figured that that's why that was happening. But excuse me, I kept asking myself, why are they doing that here? This is the national park. And then it hit me. When you're in nature and you're outside of the Wi-Fi, because there really wasn't good internet there, and there isn't supposed to be, no telephone service, so to speak, you get plugged into nature, you get plugged into earth. And the earth is, especially now, the vibe of the earth is so high that just walking outside is going to help you reset to your true identity. So you're turning on that TV. Not only did you get hit with the bad news, but you got hit with that vibe.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And could the world be that evil? Oh. You know what I do? You know what can the world be that evil? Yes, it can. You know what I do every day? And I don't care if it's raining. You know what I do every day? When I get up, I come downstairs, I make my cup of espresso, my little espresso, right? And I have my sandals on, my flip-flops, right? Okay, that I'm wearing right now. I'd show you my bare feet, but that's gross. I go out with my espresso, I kick off the flip-flops, and I walk in the grass with the sun.
Nice.
Every day. I didn't used to do that. I cannot, if I don't start like that, I can't.
That's
I don't function.
freaking awesome, because there's so much new energy that's coming at us.
And
So it's like
grounding, you're
giving
getting
you a
rid-
reset.
Yeah, you're getting rid of that I don't know if it's pH negative of my balance.
What is that
I don't
song? You know, shake it off, you
Yes.
know.
Yep.
That's fantastic. We should all do that.
I walk through the grass. Even walk on the couch, whatever. But I cannot, if I do not, there are times, it's rare. There are times that I can't do that. Maybe I'm at a hotel, I'm traveling, and or whatever. And it's not possible. I don't feel right. It's weird. I don't feel right. But if I'm at home, or if I'm that's my thing. And I
love it.
immediately
I just love it.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. Some will say
Well,
it's
you know,
grounding.
There's this whole movement. There's
Well,
this
I
whole
think
movement of grounding.
I'm grounded. I have grounded sheets. I have grounded mats. I have grounded pillows. I have a grounded mat underneath my desk here in the studio that I put my bare feet on. Yeah, I'm grounding. But the other thing is, this is just nature. Sun needs to hit your face. First thing in the morning. I think it turns on. Melatonin is shifting from serotonin, whatever. I don't know. There's some kind of chemical change. I don't know, but I've just figured this out naturally. Man, I should write a book about this. I should write a book.
Well, not everybody has access to full sun like you might in California, but we can all get on the ground. We can all get our feet on the ground, and cement also is grounding.
For sure.
It's part of the earth. So, maybe blacktop isn't, but, even if there's just a sidewalk where you live, that should be okay. So
take bare feet, man. Bare feet. For me, bare feet, sunlight. And everything turns on. It's like all the switches, right? All the switches get turned on. Maureen, listen, seriously, thank you for being a friend, and thank you for your guidance and what you have done for this community over the years. What's next up for you?
Well, I am working on a book that's in the very early stages of my brain. We've got another series of trainings. We do a 6-month training for people getting into the Akashic Records, because we give them business training as well. And we also put them on our website if they want. And then we also have some new coursework that we're offering. I did a course on remote viewing with Tom Dongo, and we put that on the website. So now it's an electronic course. We also have this training in the higher self. It's called Business Leaders Intuition Training. And that's going to be spectacular. And of course, Conscious Life with you.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see you. This is what Maureen does to me, everybody. I'm just going to, I'll be standing there. She taps me on my shoulder. She sneaks up from behind. So I get to turn around and go, get my hug on. Yeah, everybody come out to the Conscious Life Expo this year at the LAX Hilton, and they come and meet Maureen and listen to her presentation. And again, it's just all about finding your higher self and figuring out what's going on. And she is so good at what she does. So just thank you so much, and I'll see you in a couple of months. No, wait, yeah, 2 months.
Yeah, a couple months.
2 months. Thank you so much, Maureen. Behave and be well, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much. Now change the batteries in the microphone. Okay, that's what you want to do. I'll talk to you, Maureen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The very best. All of Maureen's links are below. We've got them over on our website and, of course, throughout social media. A great conversation tonight. She's the absolute very best. And come out to the Conscious Life Expo. The links for the Conscious Life Expo are below, and you can head over to the website and check out the full schedule and everything else that you need. It's at the LAX Hilton, February 2026. And with that, I do want to say tomorrow night, we've got, hold on for a second. I have something in my throat, and I hate it when that happens. What was I just saying? Oh, yeah. Okay, so tomorrow night, I wanted to do a show about experiencers and contactees, and the best. Barry Littleton is going to be with us tomorrow night. He is back. And so do tune in tomorrow night. His experience is unreal. It is so much fun, and he's great. But we get to talk about the state of where we are right now and what the future is for us and disclosure. So that's tomorrow night with Barry Littleton. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. But for now, all I've got is Go Beckley Tap. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed.
Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tappy.